Welcome back to the Eric Krown crypto channel. Wishing you a happy and early start to this very nice Vappu holiday day here in Finland. Don't know what the hell that means, but apparently everyone's very, very happy for once in their lives in Finland. Anyways, with that in mind, plenty to talk about today as we do have a major monthly closure happening tonight at 8 p.m. or sorry, is it 7? Yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then of course we already have to go over the CME monthly closure, which happened yesterday, which very likely does heavily influence the one to come a little bit later today. Anyways, with that in mind, I should let you know that the trade journal features on the Krown application have been enhanced, and they'll be getting even more enhancements in the not so distant future. And you can grab these for free actually right on over here and record all of your data, all of your trades and whatnot, and compare notes upon all of your different strategies, assuming that you have multiple strategies. And that is something that I'm very, very happy with. Of course, like I said, there is more functionality coming with it. And what else do we have to get into over here? Yes, I would also say that on Instagram, there's a bunch of scammers on there impersonating my account. I'm not them. I can assure you I only have one account. The account is in the link description below. If you're not getting harassed from that specific account, it is not me. I can assure you of that. Other than that, Bybit, yep, the good old Bybit shill. They got a deposit bonus for like 3,000 or 4,000 bucks. There is a link in the description below as well as with everything else. As always, moralistically standing, do have to let you know that, hey, when it comes to leverage trading, most people lose. And most importantly, you don't have to be that person if you simply just back test your strategies, perhaps on the Krown application, which you can do for free. Or on a paper trading account as well. It's all the same thing, or even on a testnet account. It's all, again, whatever works for you, of course. And then perhaps once you have the data that you are happy with, then perhaps consider that. Anyways, what else we want to get into? Yep, the old like and dirt button. If you do find this content valuable, I would humbly request that you do potentially hit the like button. Just consider it, you know, you can always hit the dislike later. Anyways, with that in mind, let's jump right into the content of the day. I want to make this one nice and jam-packed. So let's start off first here with the big thing of the day. We already got CME's monthly closure for Friday. There is no more trading days left in the month of April. Yes, it's now May for CME. And so we do see the first closure below that white 20 moving average on the monthly. Why is that important? Well, it's important because it's very likely going to influence heavily spot's closure tonight. And we have a pretty long-term macro signal going on right here. So I'm going to actually go over to spot price actions chart, and you can see that when we bring up our indicators right here, you will notice, or you'll very likely notice, that all these green vertical bars on this MACD histogram chart correlate to crosses to the downside, of which we've seen 3 in the history, not counting the current one that we do see happening in January to February. And these 3 crosses to the downside plus a closure below that white 20 moving average have catalyzed some major massive downfalls in Bitcoin's history. In fact, all of the major pullbacks, crashes, if you will, in this case, finding typical lows somewhere around that green moving average, which is a green 55 exponential moving average. You can see that once we actually get that closure below the white 20 simple is when things really start to, get moving, if you will, after putting in, well, traditionally a cycle top right there, or just a major top in this case. Anyways, we have this iteration over here, obviously in 2014. That'll be the first one that we can pull up. The next one would be over here in 2018. Same thing, MACD crossed to the downside first, and then closure below ever so slightly in October. And then the next couple of months, Bitcoin does find its lows. More recently, we saw it in the good old flu dump of March 2020, of course. MACD actually told you a couple months beforehand, which was rather interesting. And then the 20 simple was actually closed upon and tested the 55 all in the same kind of stretch. So a little bit faster happening right there. Obviously, if it is going to happen in this case over here, probably not going to happen all today. If that is going to be the case, that'd be a crazy Saturday. Anyways, with that in mind, again, we already have to cross to the downside, so the next piece of criteria would actually be the PMAR losing the moving average, which we've seen that fucking ship sailed a long time ago. And the next piece of the puzzle, at least as far as I'm concerned with this chart right here, is closing below officially that $40,000 mark, especially anywhere below $39,000 is bad enough today for 7 p.m. Eastern time closing time. And again, we already see that CME has closed below that region, which very likely is going to be around where spot closes anyways, which is 38,285 to be exact. So again, any sort of closure tonight, barring any sort of like heroic massive green dildo party back above about, especially 39, but even 40, I'd say would look a lot better before closure tonight. And yes, this setup essentially will be validated, historically speaking, which does have, a 100% hit rate with only 3 iterations. But let's now combine that with other major thing that we've been looking at, which is this chart over here. And actually, before we get into this chart, I do want to state one of the things that does make me consider that perhaps some fuckery might be abound and perhaps none of this might come to pass at all is simply for the fact that I pretty much see everyone on the interwebs right now bearish on the market. So you know how the old saying goes. Then again, it might just be my own echo chamber. So please let me know in the comment section below if you've noticed the same. But at least from what I can see, it does seem like the majority of the market is, bearish, if you will. Anyways, this next chart over here, we've been following up on this for a while now. It is the volatility versus momentum chart on the daily specifically. We've seen it in the past couple of years here. And again, we can do this even further than that, obviously. But anytime that we have seen volatility in the single digit percentiles, the expansion phase from those very low and extreme levels have led to, on average, about a 20% move to the upside or the downside from that expansion. We have yet again seen one of the lowest levels for the lowest times in the past couple of years here in April, or basically late April, on the 26th that we identified, starting to expand. And again, if you've been on this channel for a while now, or even just the past couple of months, you've seen this, twice in just the past month and a half, actually, or yeah, about a month and a half. Once in March, we identified this one right here on that move from about 39 to 47, 48,000. And then again to the downside a couple of weeks later in early April. And we're very likely going to get on the, we have another setup right on over here again, with first getting that nice little volatility expansion coming off the lows. And then more importantly, you'll notice that the direction is typically set in on that first move on the first day of that volatility expansion. Plus we can look at stochastic momentum as well, which we'll get to in a second here. But as you can see, obviously that first day was down, just like in this case, first day was down, follow through. In this case, first day up, follow through. In this case, first day down, follow through. In this case, first day up, follow through, and so on and so forth. You kind of get the point. It's not always like that, but kind of a decent hit rate, especially in the more recent history. Anyways, on top of that, we do see that the daily stochastic momentum is pointing to the downside right now, or at least it's very likely going to be pointing to the downside right now, barring any sort of a closure today above 39,750. Basically, that is to say the $40,000 level or so. And why is this relevant? Well, out of the last 10 iterations, the daily stochastic momentum has gotten the correct direction for that volatility expansion of, again, on average about 20%. On that first move, and sorry, did I repeat that? But 8 out of 10 have been correct for the stochastic momentum direction. And in this case, that would imply, if we're gonna go off the historical relevancy of these signals, 20% shaving off of about 41,000 or just under 41,000 bucks right there, which would be maybe like low $32,000 to $33,000. That's obviously the last sort of slew of weekly lows coming in from here. So I do like that area just from like a long-term structure perspective. And again, we will be seeing downside momentum alongside stochastic momentum within the bearish control zone, as long as Bitcoin is especially below about 39,750 or so. On top of that, also of significant interest here is going to be one, what CME did yesterday on the monthly for stochastic momentum, and then two, what can happen today, obviously for spot price action. Anyways, monthly stochastic momentum is going to remain with downside momentum here, seeing as we did close below that $63,000 almost region. So fair enough. Again, downside pressure over the long term, and obviously spot price action, is going to, further confirm that, and also losing the bullish control zone officially, or I think we kind of already lost that a while ago. So that ship's already sailed as well, below about 62,177. So that would be quite the rally in one day. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but a likely improbable, let's say. Anyways, other than that, I don't want to washy board you with like too much bear stuff right here, because in the short term, can Bitcoin put in another rally off these lows? Yeah, definitely possible. Any sort of rallies that come up to anywhere between about the 0.5 and the 618 from this current range that Bitcoin's been in on the medium term timeframes is fair game. If it even does that to begin with, it would be a good time to have that over the weekend, obviously. And then we will notice over here on our funny rates, we actually, on the daily rates, we see positive funny rates. On the short term, the hourly, we see negative rates. Hey, it's it's like the smallest amount possible negative. But you know what? I'm searching deep inside the hopium drawer right now. So with that in mind, the biggest piece of hopium that I could possibly bring up that would be massively counterbalanced by something else that I could bring up, but maybe we'll just ignore that for today, would be the Dixie chart. The Dixie chart has hit the long-term macro, like mega fucking macro target here that we had from basically about more than half a year ago, going back to like October now. Off the last breakout. Typically speaking, this is going to be a pullback region. Problem is, long term, really fucking bullish. and so I would be looking for pullbacks, anywhere even around $100 or even just slightly below $100 to 98 as very likely set in higher lows. There is nothing bearish about this chart at all whatsoever, especially as long as this thing's above like 97 for the love of God. On top of that, if you go to the other higher term timeframes like the quarterly, it's hard for me not to argue that this is likely to trade up towards 110, maybe even $120 in like the next, 3 to 5, maybe 10 years, something like that. We see hidden bullish evidence right here and extreme lows on quarterly BBWP. So ultimately, while short term, it probably does pull back. We've hit extremes twice now on daily BBWP, and we actually don't see any divergences just yet on the daily RSI, which is kind of concerning. It would be a good pullback area to come back a little bit further down into next week, which probably does help out Bitcoin on the short term. But again, keep in mind that long term, this one, I'm going to be pretty macro bullish on it as long as it's especially above 97. So it can pull back, it can even pull back rather aggressively to open up May. But ultimately, I do have to remain with long-term bullishness, even if it does pull back here. Anyways, other than that, kind of alongside the short-term potential bouncy bounce, not just with that, but also with the short-term timeframes over here is simply this. I mean, we do have on the short-term timeframe some phantom divergence actually starting to show itself. Although I don't know how much I trust it, to be honest with you, on a weekend. Typically, weekend indicators don't get as good of a hit rate. And then on top of that, if we go over here to stochastic momentum on the short-term timeframes, we will notice that 6 hour is going to start to turn up again with any sort of a closure above 39.5. So okay, maybe I'm getting a little bit maybe I'm deep reaching a little bit too deep into the hopium drawer. 4 hour is going to turn up above 39. 3 hour is going to turn up above 38.5. Hey, there we got something. And hourly is already up in vertical above 38.4. So what does this likely equate to? Probably a bit of sideways. Maybe test back up somewhere around 39, and then I guess pray for the Bulaws to close today back above $40,000. But other than that, I do think that the downside signals are really starting to, severely outweigh the upside signals, as we've been stating, especially ever since this happened over here in early April, late March, early April. The probabilities of a downside continuation move are a lot higher than upside, and that's really what I want to focus this sort of content on. I don't want to really be putting my own opinion on it. I want to just be presenting the statistics and probabilities and the data as they are, and then you can make the decision for yourself. But this signal's never gone away. Hidden bearish evidence on the 5-day chart and extremely low volatility with 5-day jewel light also down and a crown cross to the downside as well. So I'm going to leave that right there. Again, keep in mind the relevancy of the $40,000 level for tonight's daily closure and monthly closure, and pray to Bula Jesus. With that said, I want to wish you well, take care, and enjoy the rest of your April.